Welcome to day 10 of the 12 DIYs of Christmas, and today we are surrounded by foliage, and you probably have some of this in your yard, so we are going to be combining yard clippings with glitter paper to make a beautiful wreath with your own hand-lettered letters out of the paper. We're tying it all together here, nature and lettering. So let's dive in. My name is Amanda and I teach art and hand lettering tutorials here on YouTube and also full-length, in-depth courses on my website, amandaarneill.com. So head outside before we even get started and clip some of your neighbors, your own bushes, and bring in some of that gorgeous foliage into your home. I actually went and bought all of these from a neighborhood store, but honestly, I could have gone outside. It was raining. So what are you going to do? You're also going to need a wreath frame. I have one that was handmade in like Hungary or something like that, but you can get any one that you want. I just happen to reuse this one every year. You're going to need some wire, some adhesive glue dots, scissors, or probably like proper clippers to cut your foliage. You're also going to need scissors to cut your glitter paper, thick cardstock glitter paper, tracing paper, and a pencil. Just a few things. Well, I'd love to dive into the wreath. I think the first thing that we should do is talk about our plan for the wreath and also get started on our letters, because often with a wreath, you have a bow on it, and that bow is like your focal point, it's the grounding point, but instead we're going to put letters onto our wreath. We're going to be writing the word joy and attaching that to the wreath, and that's going to be our focal point. When you have a wreath frame like this, you also have the bonus of not having to fill in that whole wreath. You can do it where you just have a little bit on the bottom. And so that's what I'm going to be doing here, a little bit on the bottom, and then with the word joy inside. So let's write out our word first. Tracing paper is really helpful for anything like this because you can go in, write it out until you have it the exact perfect way that you want it, but also we're going to be transferring our trace onto the back of our glitter paper. And I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to do that. As you're writing your word, think about the scale of your letters so that they're large enough to be seen even with all of this gorgeous foliage. You also want to think about the scale of your letters being large enough so that your upstrokes and downstrokes will also be easy to be seen. Now, if you have a brush marker, you can go through and trace over your sketch to get your lines with a brush marker, or you can go in and use some foligraphy. And if you can't remember how to do foligraphy, you can watch this tutorial right here. Go through and add in that thickness so that you have letters that will stand out from the rest of your foliage. And we want this to be nice and thick to really show off the beautiful glitter. So you can see even my upstrokes are relatively thick. Now with the J, how are we going to deal with that dot floating up top? Well, that's going to be its own piece that we will attach to the wreath. As you sketch, darken up the lines that you want to keep. Those other sketch lines, you don't have to worry about erasing them, but just draw them in a little bit lighter so that they don't become your final lines. You want to try to maintain the thickness of your downstroke sections and the thinness of your upstroke sections so that it's consistent throughout your piece. Once you have your letters how you want them, you're going to trace them on the other side as well. And this is going to be the trace of your final line. And the reason you're doing it on this other side is because we are going to use that front side to transfer your letters onto your glitter paper. Once you have your trace done, scribble over the whole thing on the front. Now we're going to take our glitter paper, turn it over so that you're working on the back, and place your trace face down so that your scribbled portion is touching the back of your glitter paper. You're going to go around and trace that line that you put onto the back, and this will transfer your line to the back of the glitter paper. Ta-da! Once you take your trace off, you have your letters there and you are ready to cut them out. Don't worry so much about what the back looks like when it's cut out. It's like the back of a Christmas tree. No one's supposed to look there. When you flip it over, then do final touches just to smooth out some of your lines or finish off your curves. That's the side we want to pay attention to. Now that we have our letters made, we are going to put those to the side, put our wreath back together, and then we'll come back and revisit this. Your glue dots can go to the side too, because you're going to be using that with the letters, not with the foliage. It's time to create the wreath. Take what you have, and because we're only filling in the bottom part here, we're going to have it starting from the middle and then growing outwards and upwards. If you were to do your full wreath, you would want to continue in one direction, working all the way around. Clip off your branch, and then with the wire, pull off a length of your wire and give it a snip with some wire clippers or scissors that you don't particularly like anymore. You want to wrap that around your foliage, give it a twist so that it's tight in on your branch, and then wrap it around your wreath as well. Give it a few twists, get it nice and tight, and you can even leave that wire free so that as you build up your branches, you can attach it with that same wire. Add a few more portions of wire as you work your way up the wreath. Doing this will allow you to make sure that your foliage is actually following the wreath. Place it against the wreath, give it some twists, and let's continue building out our wreath. From the middle point up this way, from the middle point up this way, and then we'll add our letter in the center. Once you have your wreath made, cute, right? Once you have your wreath filled out and you still have that space in the middle for your word, we are going to add it in there. So take your word and lay it into the center of your piece. And now what I notice is that I have a big space underneath. So you can even take some extra foliage and place it in there so that you have sort of a flat plane for this to sit on. That, of course, won't stay there. You're going to need to wire it in. But play around with it a little bit, adding those small touches of greenery to fill in the space behind your word. And now it's time to add wire to our word. So that's where the glue dots come in. You know all of those little scrap bits that you had when you were cutting out your word? You're going to be using those. With your scissors, cut some little chunks off of that, and you're going to use those to cover up the back side of your glue dots. Cut a length of wire at least 12 inches long. I think this is closer to 16. And then you're going to make a sandwich. Your word, a glue dot, the wire, and we'll do it up and down because it's going to have to wrap around, and then a scrap. That will stop the glue dot from sticking to a whole bunch of other things. Do this a few times down your letter and on your dot. If you added any extra foliage, just wire that in quickly before you add your letters to your wreath. And this is a really nice way, especially if you have a fake tree or not so real tree. Fake is harsh. But if you have a fake tree, this is a nice way to still bring in some of that natural greenery into your home, or to get the smell. Like these ones, they smell heavenly. Okay, so bring those letters in, poke that wire through on the top on both sides, and then twist it on the back. You don't want to twist it so tight that it pulls your letters or gets them misshapen, but tight enough that they will stay in place. And then add your dot the same way, but you might have to attach this rather than putting it around the wreath. It might have to go around a single branch or even around a leaf. Like this guy's going right around here. And just make sure that you do it so it's tight, but not too tight. Perfect. Once you have them in place, you can either twist a little bit more around the back. If you want to twine more through your wreath, you can do that, or go through and clip off the ends of your wires. So there we go, a Christmas wreath. Honestly, this didn't take long, and there's something really enjoyable about making your own wreath, and then it has your own lettering as well. So it's not just foliage, but it also has a little bit of your own personal touch. Honestly, you really need to go out and make one of these. This was lovely. I need to go get another wreath form. If you missed a single one of the 12 DIYs of Christmas, you can watch all of them right here, or they're also linked down below. And if you don't want to make a wreath, you can always make yourself a necklace. I can't wait to see you next time for our next DIY together. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss it.